Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. Part 7 on Hunter Biden's laptop and government involvement. Federal Bureau of Investigation, direct involvement along with other government agencies in suppressing and silencing the truth under the guise or the pretext of blaming an intelligence operation of another country, or by another country to inform you of corruption within the Democratic Party. So the emails that showed in 2016 written by officials within the Democratic National Committee, those emails that showed Bernie Sanders was railroaded. That was a plot by another country. Okay. Hunter's emails were. They were also apparently a plot by another country. So this was an organized effort to inform you of the truth. The information is truthful. That's the Twitter files show you the information is truthful. But the truthful information is actually a national security issue. You can't hear about it. It could be an attempt by another country to influence you into voting for Trump or Lake or DeSantis, or Trump Republicans. Lawsuit has gone forward to have the 8 claims. Huge news, it will go to trial. Now, if she wins this trial, it will be a landmark moment in modern U.S. history, or at least a landmark moment in recent political history, I should say. The opposing counsel or the attorneys for Hobbs made the most egregious, sinister and distorted claim pertaining to history and atrocities that took place oftentimes by organizations or originally founded by the Democratic Party. We won't even get into that right now. But the opposing counsel said, well, suppression people know what suppression is. And then he listed atrocities. AOC tried to do something like that. And I wrote a Jerusalem Post op-ed, explaining how distorted and manipulative and yada sham in Jerusalem had to correct AOC. Now, on Twitter, I speak in roundabout terms, verbose, long-winded for a reason for the first 3 to 4 minutes. And then I'll explain myself further, the last 6 minutes. But you look at what Democrats in the Democratic Party are what never Trump Republicans do, and there has to be a peace offering, there has to be an olive branch, there has to be either some olive branch or you defeat politically or legally. There, the Arizona Republican and the Georgia Republican Party's state parties have to align with RIP the Republican Party in general in 24, or else, everything is lost in 24. Even if Lake is victorious in the trial, so that's one issue that I always talk about. But hopefully if she wins this trial, they'll be more apt, open or willing to play ball with Trump DeSantis Trump Republicans who run the Republican Party. What you've had is state parties that have dug their heels into the ground, will not budge, will not back Herschel Walker or Lake or others. And they're in Georgia and Arizona. The Republican parties are actually okay in many ways. With the Democrat as senator, that's another issue. If she wins this trial, then the paradigm changes immediately. And some significant news, the Twitter files Part 7, the word collusion, the word interference, 2 Democrat buzzwords that we heard endlessly from Democrats over the 4 years of Donald Trump's first term in office. Well, like everything else that we see from Democrats, it was pure projection. I mean, let's really have a conversation about collusion and interference. The real interference was deep state unit party interference into the pre-electoral process to stop Donald Trump from winning a second term in office. A lot of Democrats are making the argument that how could this possibly benefit Democrats? If Chris Wray was in charge of the FBI at the time, Chris Wray was chosen by Donald Trump? Well, Chris Wray has proven himself countless times as a never-Trumper, as not loyal to the Republican Party but loyal to the unit party establishment, not to mention the 7th floor at the FBI. Lefties on Twitter, of course, are just trying to cope and find any excuse to justify or distract from the clear story here. The DNC Rhino RNC unit party faction in Washington colluded with their rogue agents and federal agencies to interfere in the United States electoral system before votes were cast. And it is absolutely undeniable. And on top of that, we have absolutely undeniable proof that Chris Wray, director of the FBI, lied under oath and misled the American people. Alright, folks, take a look at this from Michael Schellenberger, Twitter files Part 7, the FBI in the Hunter Biden laptop, how the FBI and intelligence community discredited factual information about Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings both after and before the New York Post revealed the contents of his laptop on October 14, 2020, and Twitter files number 6. We saw the FBI relentlessly seek to exercise influence over Twitter, including over its content, its users and its data and Twitter files. Number 7. We present evidence pointing to an organized effort by representatives of the intelligence community aimed at senior executives in news and social media companies to discredit leaked information about Hunter Biden before and after it was published. The story begins in December 2019 when a Delaware computer store owner named John Paul J.P. Mac Isaac contacts the FBI about a laptop that Hunter Biden had left with him on December 9, 2019. The FBI issued a subpoena for and takes Hunter Biden's laptop. The subpoena is present here with documents shown in these photos by August 2020. Mac Isaac still had not heard back from the FBI even though he had discovered evidence of criminal activity, and so he emails Rudy Giuliani, who was under FBI surveillance at the time. In early October, Giuliani gives it to the New York Post at 9:22 p.m. Eastern. FBI Special Agent Elvis Chen sends 10 documents to Twitter's then head of site integrity Yoel Roth through Teleporter, a one-way communications channel from the FBI to Twitter. Twitter folks heads up. Next day, October 14, 2020. The New York Post runs its explosive story revealing the business dealings of President Joe Biden's son Hunter. Every single fact in it was accurate. And yet within hours, Twitter and other social media companies censor the New York Post article, preventing it from spreading and, more importantly, undermining its credibility in the minds of many Americans. What is that? What exactly happened? Well, if we skip a little bit further in this Twitter thread, we get a glimpse into this FBI pressure campaign to gain control over the narrative during all of 2020. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies repeatedly primed all Roths to dismiss reports of Hunter Biden's laptop as a Russian hack and leak operation. This is from a sworn declaration by Roth given to Democrats in 2020. Since 2018, I have had regular meetings with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and industry peers regarding election security. During these weekly meetings, the federal law enforcement agencies communicated that they expected hack and leak operations by state actors might occur in the period shortly before the 2020 presidential election, likely in October. I was told in these meetings that the intelligence community expected that individuals associated with political campaigns would be subject to hacking attacks, and that material obtained through those hackings or through those hacking attacks would likely be disseminated over social media platforms, including Twitter. These expectations of hack and leak operations were discussed throughout 2020. I also learned in these meetings that there were rumors that a hack and leak operation would involve Hunter Biden. The FBI knew that it wasn't a hack and leak operation. They knew that it came from a Delaware Mac computer repair shop and that it was handed to Rudy Giuliani, who they were surveilling. They knew that he had the contents of the laptop and that he went to the New York Post. They probably were spying on him and also knew that it was going to drop in October. And so they fabricated a false narrative to protect the Bidens, to get ahead of this story and to discredit it as a Russian hacking operation, and then playing social media companies like a damn fiddle to censor the information less than a month ahead of Election Day. Tell me more about Russian interference. Democrats, please? I'd love to hear it, because interestingly enough, Twitter actually debunked false claims by journalists of foreign influence on its platforms. Quote, "We haven't seen any evidence to support that claim by _Bed Collins, who works at NBC. Our review thus far shows a small-scale domestic troll effort. The real big-scale influence campaign was coming from within, from the FBI, and they were pushing the boundaries in a relentless pressure campaign." Twitter's Dal Roth has pushed back against the FBI in January 2020. Roth resisted FBI efforts to get Twitter to share data outside the norms of the search warrant process. The pressure had been growing. "We haven't seen a sustained, if coordinated, effort by the intelligence community to push us to share more info and change our API policies. They are probing and pushing every way that they can, including by whispering to congressional staff. Time and time again, FBI asks Twitter for evidence of foreign influence, and Twitter responds that they aren't finding anything worth reporting." Despite Twitter's pushback, the FBI repeatedly requested information from Twitter that Twitter has already made it clear it will not share outside of legal normal channels. Then in July 2020, the FBI, as Elvis Chen, arranges for a temporary top security clearance for Twitter executives so that the FBI can share information about threats to upcoming elections on August 11, 2020. The FBI, as Chen shares information with Twitter's Roth relating to a Russian hacking organization, AAPT-28, through the FBI's secure one-way communications channel Teleporter. It is no longer up for debate. This was one massive conspiracy to save the Biden's period official FBI actors working to apply pressure on Dal Ross to gain influence and power at Twitter to protect Democrats ahead of the election. This is what the FBI was using your taxpayer dollars to do. It went beyond the 50 former intelligence officials signing a letter claiming the Hunter Biden laptop story had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. It wasn't just former FBI agents or intelligence officials, it was current FBI agents influencing social media companies to control the discourse ahead of an election. When you think about democracy, you don't think about the FBI putting its thumb on the scale and getting to decide who wins elections through the shadows through their corrupt actions. That's the type of stuff you expect from the KGB, not the FBI. Time and time again, we see them involved in these conspiracies, and time again, they lie to the American people without consequence. Let's do a little flashback to this moment when Rand Paul was questioning FBI Director Chris Wray. Everyone listen to this. Companies are referring information to the FBI with investigative value relating to foreign malign influence. Now, there'd probably be a great deal more tolerance about that if it's foreign, malign influence, but the question is, are you also receiving information on so-called domestic? What would that mean? Is someone questioning whether paper ballots are an accurate way of running election? Is that good enough for you to be getting our private information as because we have a political beef with the way votes are counted or recorded in our country? Is that something that you're collecting information on? Are they giving you information on private? Give you two classic examples that I think happened with some frequency. 1. If we supply information to, say, Facebook or any number of other technology companies about foreign accounts, Russian intelligence service, for example, accounts, when they then look in their system for those accounts, they often find other accounts related to those and they provide tips and leads back to us about those. That's one example. A second would be a situation where a technology company encounters a threat of violence on their platform, on their services, and they provide tips and leads to us and we follow up on those in Red Savan. Not a lot of are you receiving things that could be interpreted? And we'd want to know, and if you're not going to admit to us, whether it's political speech, someone who questions the election, someone who is mad about something that is going on, it's not saying they're directly going to commit violence. They're mad about things. What the New York Post article said is, yes, you're getting this. And then when they're finally read in context, and this is from a whistleblower, which makes us suspect you're not being forthcoming or honest with us, is that whistleblowers are saying you are receiving this information from Facebook and others, and that you are going around the Constitution and to come back and try to get warrants for it. But then once you read it, there's been no actionable intelligence on this, but this is an active program that you've got work for the government. You should admit to us whether or not you have a program going after our speech. Okay, folks. He claims that the FBI was focused on Russian accounts requesting information on Russian actors. Get all the evidence that we have seen thus far through the Twitter files shows the FBI focusing on small follower American accounts and focused on censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story. He lied. Chris Wray explicitly stated on the record that the FBI works with social media companies to stop foreign interference and violence, not police any type of speech. Yet there is now countless irrefutable evidence that the FBI was working to censor Americans' right to speech, their right to hold opinions. They were flagging tweets and accounts for Twitter to take action, and they colluded with the corrupt Washington establishment unit party to stop Donald Trump from winning a second term. That is a fact that is undeniable at this point. The question is, are people paying attention? And do people care enough about democracy, real democracy, to be outraged over this betrayal of American electoral will? We'll have to see. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Give me your thoughts below and hit